The other one that is so odd, and no one would ever even think that this mouthwash would be an issue with any health, because the people that are doing mouthwash actually care about their hygiene, right? They're the ones that are actually thinking, oh, I don't want to have bad breath and I want to have good oral health. As a mom of three, I've always teased my kids. I've said, look, 99% of disease is reversible, not your teeth, not your mouth.
Yeah.
Don't mess up your teeth. So oral hygiene and the oral bacteria and all of that is so important to the body. I know that there's a map of your teeth as it relates to every organ in the body. There's so much about your mouth. But let's talk about mouthwash.
Yeah. Now, look, I think everything typically starts with a reason or a cause, and a good cause. I mean, I think most humans are good and well intended and try to do the right thing. But we call this progress. 100 years ago, they thought that leeching and exsanguinating blood in sick people by leeches was a good idea, and it worked clinically. But now we know better, right? So there's this known connection between oral hygiene and cardiovascular disease, right? The oral systemic link. People with poor oral hygiene have higher incidence of heart attack or stroke. So the dentist approach in the American Dental Association goes, well, let's just kill all the oral bacteria with mouthwash, antiseptic mouthwash. And you see the commercials, kills 99.99% of the bacteria in your mouth. Well, maybe 100 years ago, that was a good idea. But now, since the microbiome has been mapped and we understand that the bacteria that live in and on our body outnumber our own human cells 10 to 1, and these bacteria are there to do specific metabolic functions that contribute to the health of the host, the human. So we eradicate the bacteria to our own demise. There's a reason we don't take an antibiotic every day for the rest of our life, because of the havoc it wreaks on the human host, and it causes systemic disease. Well, the same thing happens when you eradicate the oral bacteria. Bad things happen. We and others published that if you use mouthwash, it causes an increase in blood pressure. You lose the protective benefits of exercise. So mouthwash disrupts the entire ecology of the oral microbiome, shuts down nitric oxide production, and causes chronic disease. And so we have to restore the oral microbiome. And putting a shotgun blast or dropping an atomic bomb on an entire population of bacteria is really a bad idea. So now what we're trying to do is, how do we selectively kill the bad guys while maintaining a healthy, diverse oral microbiome? And that's what we do with our nitric oxide technology.
So, what about gum? What about other things when you eat, when you're eating food? What does the nitric oxide do? Does it go down temporarily and then come back up when you're not eating between meals?
The human body, the more I learn about the human body, the more I'm amazed at, what a grand designer we had and how it basically adjusts to all conditions. And there's enormous redundancy in the human body, right? So nitric oxide, there always has to be a way for the human body to produce nitric oxide. So mechanistically, we know how this works through the diet. So when we eat certain foods, primarily green leafy vegetables that are enriched in nitrate, in the body, so when we consume this meal, let's take spinach, for example, 90 minutes after we consume a plate of spinach, the components of that meal are broken down, and we have these constituent molecules. One we focus on is nitrate. That nitrate is taken up in the gut and concentrated in our salivary glands. And this was recognized back in the 1950s, that nitrate from our diet is intentionally concentrated in our salivary glands. And now for the next 6, 8, 10 hours, each time we salivate after we've eaten that meal, we secrete nitrate through the salivary glands, and then the bacteria that live in the crypts of the tongue reduce the nitrate to nitrite. And humans don't have this enzyme. We're 100% dependent upon the bacteria. So now the saliva is enriched in nitrite, and when we swallow our own saliva, as long as there's sufficient stomach acid production, nitrite becomes protonated and we generate nitric oxide gas in the lumen of the stomach. So by eating these plant-based foods, having the right oral bacteria, every time we swallow our saliva, we get a burst in production of nitric oxide in the lumen of the stomach. And that nitric oxide that's produced through swallowing our own saliva kills things like H. pylori, the ulcer-causing bacteria, can kill any E. coli or salmonella or clostridium that may be found in the foods. But more importantly, it enhances gastric mucosal blood flow, so now you can absorb nutrients, take them up, and distribute them throughout the entire body. But when you don't have stomach acid being produced, or when you're using antacids, you completely, or you don't eat a good diet, you completely shut down nitric oxide production from this pathway. And the clinical consequences are severe. High blood pressure, erectile dysfunction, exercise intolerance, diabetes, insulin resistance, Alzheimer's, all can be traced back to a lack of nitric oxide production.